Hey there, Russ Murphy here from Indiana Avenue Baptist Church. Going to do a morning devotional with you today. From Matthew 22, it says this: a teacher, talking to Jesus, which is the great commandment of the law? And Christ said, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, and all of your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. Well, Christ is telling us that the most important thing that we can do is to love him. Love him just for who he is, and not so much for what he can do for us. I saw a story one time, a lady giving her testimony on TV, and she says she was only about 2 weeks before she was to be married, and one day at the office she went to get some coffee, and on the way back she fell down and could not get up. Her legs just quit working. They got her to the hospital and they ran some tests on her. She called her fiance. He was out of town. He came back in, and by the time he got there, they had given a name to this ailment. I can't pronounce it probably, but it meant that she was paralyzed from the waist down for the rest of her life. And this couple was very active. They liked to jog, they liked to go rock climbing and things like that. And so she took her engagement ring off, and when he sat down on the bed, she put it back in his hand and said, I'm going to give this back to you because I want you to marry a whole woman. I'm not a whole woman. I can't dance, I can't rock climb, I can't jog, I can't have children. We can't even have regular relations as a husband and wife in the bedroom. I want you to marry somebody who's whole. And that young fiance took the ring and put it back on her finger and said, I'm not marrying you for all these things you can do with me and for me. I'm marrying you because of you. And they got married. 20 years later, in 1994, a storm came up in the neighborhood and the area. She put her wheelchair over by the window, and a lightning bolt hit the window, the metal window, went to her wheelchair, threw her clear across the room, about 10 feet, and she stood up on her own. She went in to tell the day nurse in the kitchen, saying, did you hear and see what just happened? And the nurse was just flabbergasted because she said, ma'am, you're standing. Whatever got disconnected 20 years earlier, God put back together through that lightning bolt right then. She said, don't tell my husband. So she didn't even call him. And that night, like he'd done for 20 years, come down the street and looked up into his driveway, and this time he saw a woman waving at him. He had never seen that before. And he went even past the house, not even recognized as his wife. He finally screeched on the brakes and went up, and she told him what happened. And the very last scene of this testimony showed her and her husband and two little boys jogging around a lake. You might say, well, the real testimony, the real miracle was what God did, and it was, definitely. But I think even a bigger miracle in some ways with that fiance man saying, I love you just for you. I know we love Christ for what he can do for us, but it may come a day he says, all you've got is me. And the question is, if all you had was Jesus, would you still just love him alone? Pray you have a fantastic, wonderful day.